that someone was doing a burnout in your car before they gave it to you. Hey guys, I'm Nate. Welcome back to the channel. So today I thought we'd do a follow-up to my previous video on how do you get that best deal for a Hellcat or really any car when you're shopping, to what should you look for specifically when you're taking delivery of your car. This would apply if you're picking up the car, if you ordered the car and now it's there and you're gonna go get it. A lot of this advice really is interchangeable across a bunch of different cars, but some of it will be Hellcat specific. What you should do before you go, write this stuff down, put it somewhere in like a notebook, print it out, whatever, so you have like this checklist of items that you can refer to. And so you're just gonna go through each one of these one by one when you're standing in front of your new car. And yeah, maybe it feels a little weird, right? You're like, well, this is not normal stuff. Do it, because ultimately you're gonna have a lot more headache if you end up having to check for this stuff later. So specifically on the Hellcat or any Challenger or whatever, you have this awesome EVIC system, right? Which contains a ton of information about the car. So one of the first things you're gonna wanna do when you get this car, so let's assume you drove it around for a little bit, you did your little test drive, everything looks fine. Check the odometer, right? That's like a real simple thing to check. It should have very little miles. I think when I picked up my car, it had about 16 miles on it. Let me know, some of you other guys that have picked up your Hellcat, how many miles it had when you picked up delivery of it, assuming it was a new car, obviously. So check that, and then go into the EVIC system and look for just some general stuff here. So you get into the performance pages, you want to go to number 3, and you're in the performance pages. So what you want to check here is you want to check top speed, see how fast this car's been. Top speed should be pretty low for a brand new car. And then you can just keep scrolling right. So you got 0 to 60, you should have nothing on this. Yeah, that's pretty bad time there. 0 to 100, 1/8 mile, quarter mile, braking distance, G-forces, peak G-forces, lap timer, lap history. All of that stuff should be pretty much blank. I haven't really used those gauges that much. That's why there's not a lot of info in there. And the info that is in there is pretty pathetic. Okay, while you're in here, another thing you can check. So this is going to be under your vehicle info, which is number 2. What you're going to want to be checking here is just make sure that this car is good. So battery voltage should be like between 13.7 and 14.7, assuming the alternator and the battery is good. And again, just keep scrolling through this. What you need to get to is tire pressure. Definitely check that. Tire pressure, you want to make sure that your tire pressure is where it needs to be. It's not underinflated. You're taking a drive, or maybe they hit a nail or something, just check that. The other thing I would say is maybe coolant and oil temps, just to make sure that there's nothing wrong, like especially coolant temp. Make sure that the hose is attached properly and there's nothing leaking there, so you want to check that. And then oil pressure will give you a good indication of maybe they forgot to put the oil cap back on if they had to top off the fluids or something like that, right? So just check all of this. Oil life should be pretty much close to 100%. You're buying a brand new car. Now the stuff that you can't check specifically in the EVIC that you're going to want to pop the hood is, I got my Tuna No Crust shirt. So pop that hood and check for things like, check the oil level, check, actually, you know what, just generally you should check fluid levels and make sure they're all kind of within spec, that something isn't too low. You're going to be taking that drive, you want to make sure there's no problem. Also, if you did take that quick spin wherever you parked, look under the car, just make sure you don't see anything that's leaking, just in case a hose popped off or something. When I picked up my car, another thing I needed to check on the early generation, I don't know if it's probably still not a problem, I needed to make sure that that coolant hose was properly affixed, like with the little belt clip or whatever they called it, that was properly tight onto the radiator. And you also want to make sure that the belt, I think the supercharger belt, isn't rubbing against that, because the clearance is pretty tight under there. The next thing you want to do is just take a walk around the car, assuming it's clean. You're going to want to just check for any imperfections in the paint, any damage, any scratches. If you're taking delivery of a car, I recommend you try and take delivery of that car during daylight where there's a ton of light, or it's going to be inside a shop under those fluorescent lights where you can really see any issues. And you're going to want to check for just little blemishes in the paint, places where maybe the paint doesn't quite match between panels, specifically on the front, like the bumper cover to the front fender. You want to check the match on those paints. And then just go around the car, take some time, take your time looking at the paint. The other thing you're going to want to check is the front splitter. So on the Hellcats, the front splitter is pretty low and it sticks kind of out there, that if they're not careful, that can get scuffed up when they're unloading it from the delivery vehicle, the transport vehicle. Mine was a little scuffed up when I took delivery of it, and so I noticed and I pointed it out. They were able to address it by just doing a little quick sand and buff, and it's been fine. But take a look and make sure that that looks okay, definitely. So you're gonna look at the front of that splitter, and you're gonna look a little bit under the splitter and make sure that everything there looks pretty okay. The other thing is this car has cheap wheel paint. No, there's no other way to say it. So check your wheels and make sure that there's no chips, scratches, imperfections in the wheel paint. So another thing you can check for abuse on the car if you're picking this thing up new is look in the wheel wells and see if you notice any rubber residue. If you do, that's probably a pretty good telltale indication that someone was doing a burnout in your car before they gave it to you, which really sucks. And then another thing you want to check out is your keys, right? So you should, if you're getting a new, I mean, even if you're getting a used, hopefully you get all the keys, you should be getting 2 red keys and a black key. So what I recommend you doing, just in case there's a problem and you don't have to go back to the dealership, save yourself some time, check all the keys, right? Make sure all of the keys work, they unlock the car, they lock the car, and that they also start the car, right? So independently, just make sure you check each of those keys. Because if there's something wrong, then you're gonna have to go back to get it programmed at the dealership, which will be free, but I mean, unless your time is free or you don't care about your time, then you can do whatever you want. All right, so the last thing is very specific to Challengers, and it's always been a problem, is you're gonna have to check the alignment of certain things. So exhaust tips, make sure those are not crooked and they're aligned and straightened properly, easy fix. You're also gonna wanna check the hood to make sure that there's no gaps, like excessive gaps around where the hood meets the rest of the car. And the other part is the trunk. Make sure that the trunk is closed, it's straight, there's no real gaps there. Again, those are simple things to fix, but you're taking delivery of a new car, you're already at the dealership, and if there's a problem, you may as well just have them take care of it while you're there. So one more thing I would say to check is just check the tires. If you can, just maybe take a walk around, or when you drive the car, just kind of listen to it. Listen to all the noises anyways when you start up the car and you drive it around, just to see if there's anything weird. If you can take it on a little bit longer of a ride, check to make sure the alignment kind of looks okay, there's no wheel balancing issues. On these cars, you tend to have a higher speed wheel balancing issue. It's not really going to be prevalent until you hit like 80 miles per hour. And it's always been a problem with the Challengers since I've ever had one. So if you can get it on the highway, kind of get it to that 80+ spot, just see if there's a little vibration. It can be fixed, but just something you're gonna have to, you know, address. So what do you guys think? Is there anything else that you guys look for when you're taking delivery of a new car, specifically a Challenger or a Hellcat? Put it down in the comments for other people to see. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Check out these next ones, and I'll see you there. Thanks, bye.